The following video is intended for mature audiences. It contains horror elements, adult themes, and language that might not be suitable for younger viewers. In the landscape of modern cinema, few films manage to encapsulate the raw, primal fear of survival like 127 Hours. Directed by Danny Boyle and based on the harrowing true story of mountaineer Aron Ralston, the film takes the audience on an emotionally devastating journey into the depths of human endurance. What makes this story even more compelling is its presentation, not just as a tale of adventure gone wrong, but as a psychological horror that leaves you on edge from start to finish. It's a film that, while chronicling a terrifying ordeal, resonates with anyone who's ever sought thrills in the wilderness, only to be reminded of how quickly nature can turn from breathtakingly beautiful to fatally unforgiving. For those who, like me, are drawn to adventure, extreme sports, and films that explore the terrifying boundaries of human survival, 127 Hours is an unforgettable experience. It's a movie that not only captures the physical ordeal of being trapped alone in the wilderness, but delves deeply into the psychology of isolation, helplessness, and the sheer will to live. While its pacing keeps the narrative tight and unrelenting, the story itself is as heart-wrenching as it is horrifying. It's a film that grips you in its vice and refuses to let go, leaving you breathless by the time the final credits roll. At its core, 127 Hours tells the story of Aron Ralston, played by James Franco, an avid outdoorsman, climber, and all-around adventurer. Ralston thrives on the thrill of exploring nature's most dangerous and remote locales. He's independent, confident, and loves the adrenaline rush that comes with testing his limits. His latest adventure, a solo trek through the rugged and majestic canyons of Utah, should have been just another chapter in his extreme sports-filled life, but within hours of starting his journey, it becomes something far more dangerous and life-threatening. The turning point occurs when Ralston, while descending into a narrow slot canyon, dislodges a boulder that traps his arm against the canyon wall. Suddenly, the adventure becomes a nightmare, and the vast expanse of nature that once promised freedom and excitement morphs into a claustrophobic prison. What follows is 5 agonizing days of isolation, fear, and desperation, as Ralston struggles to survive with no water, little food, and the weight of the rock slowly bearing down on his spirit. What makes 127 Hours unique is the psychological aspect of Ralston's ordeal. Rather than relying on traditional horror tropes like a lurking killer or supernatural threat, the terror in this movie is rooted in something far more primal: isolation. The canyon becomes a living nightmare, its silence deafening, its stillness oppressive. The once exhilarating landscape is now indifferent, even hostile. The horror comes from Ralston's realization that he is utterly alone, cut off from any help, with survival resting solely in his own hands. Danny Boyle's direction amplifies this sense of isolation. The wide, sweeping shots of the canyon contrast sharply with the tight, claustrophobic close-ups of Ralston trapped in the narrow space. These visual choices emphasize the vastness of the wilderness and the smallness of one man in its midst. The canyon is a brutal reminder of nature's indifference to human suffering, and it's in this indifference that the psychological horror truly lies. Ralston's mental descent is as terrifying as his physical predicament. As the hours tick by, dehydration, hunger, and exhaustion begin to take their toll. He experiences hallucinations, flashbacks, and emotional breakdowns. The solitude becomes unbearable, and we see the once confident adventurer unravel as the reality of his situation sinks in. Franco's performance is nothing short of remarkable here, capturing the full spectrum of Ralston's psychological journey, from determination and anger to fear and resignation. It's in these moments of psychological vulnerability that the film taps into a deep-seated fear of isolation and helplessness. For a film that is classified as a drama and adventure story, 127 Hours has a haunting, visceral quality that aligns it with some of the most terrifying survival horror films ever made. The horror here is not in the form of jump scares or gore, but in the existential terror of being trapped, alone, with no way out. It's the type of horror that lingers in the mind, long after the film ends, because it's rooted in a reality that could happen to anyone. Ralston's Predicament taps into a universal fear, the fear of being caught in a life-or-death situation, with no one around to help and no way to communicate with the outside world. The isolation he experiences is magnified by the realization that no one knows where he is, a consequence of his independent spirit and refusal to tell anyone about his plans. This adds a layer of psychological horror to the story, as the audience is forced to confront the consequences of Ralston's decisions and how his isolation is both literal and metaphorical. What makes 127 Hours particularly unique is that it doesn't shy away from the brutality of survival. As the hours pass and Ralston's chances of rescue dwindle, the film explores what it means to survive, not just physically but mentally and emotionally. It's about the choices we make when pushed to the brink and the lengths we'll go to stay alive. The final act of the film, which I won't spoil here, is a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, but it's also a moment of gut-wrenching horror that is as difficult to watch as it is cathartic. One of the film's greatest strengths is its pacing. Although much of the story takes place in a single location with one character, Boyle manages to keep the tension high and the narrative engaging throughout. The film moves at a breakneck pace in the opening scenes, mirroring Ralston's energetic, thrill-seeking lifestyle. The audience is swept up in the excitement of his adventure, only to be brought crashing down when disaster strikes. From the moment Ralston becomes trapped, the pacing shifts, slowing down to reflect the agonizing passage of time. Boyle uses time-lapse sequences, split screens, and quick cuts to create a sense of disorientation, mirroring Ralston's deteriorating mental state. These stylistic choices heighten the tension, making the audience feel every minute of Ralston's ordeal as if they are trapped alongside him. At the same time, the film never drags. Each moment feels purposeful, and the pacing ensures that the audience remains fully immersed in the story. The tension builds steadily, culminating in a climactic moment that is as emotionally powerful as it is horrifying. James Franco's portrayal of Aron Ralston is nothing short of extraordinary. With the majority of the film resting on his shoulders, Franco delivers a performance that is both physically and emotionally demanding. He captures the full range of Ralston's experience, from the initial confidence and bravado of an experienced adventurer to the crushing despair of a man who realizes he may not make it out alive. Franco's performance is not just about physical endurance, it's in the small moments, the quiet desperation, the fleeting hope, the resignation, that his portrayal truly shines. He brings a raw vulnerability to the role that makes Ralston's ordeal feel immediate and real. You feel his pain, his fear, and his determination, and it's this emotional connection that makes the film so powerful. The physicality of the role cannot be overstated either. Franco convincingly portrays the agony of dehydration, the pain of being trapped, and the mental toll of isolation. His performance is grounded in realism, which makes the horror of his situation all the more palpable. At its heart, 127 Hours is a story of survival, not just in the physical sense, but in the emotional and psychological sense as well. It's about the choices we make when faced with impossible odds and the resilience of the human spirit in the face of overwhelming adversity. The film doesn't just focus on Ralston's struggle to free himself from the rock. It delves into the emotional and mental journey he undergoes as he confronts his mortality. Aron Ralston's story is one of self-reflection, and the film explores how his ordeal forces him to confront his arrogance and the realization that no one is truly invincible. 127 Hours is a film that transcends the adventure genre to become something far more profound. It's a psychological horror story that taps into our deepest fears of isolation, helplessness, and death, while also celebrating the resilience of the human spirit. It's a film that is both heart-wrenching and uplifting, terrifying and inspiring. For those who love adventure and horror films, 127 Hours offers a unique and unforgettable experience. With its excellent pacing, gripping story, and powerhouse performance from James Franco, 127 Hours is a testament to the strength of human endurance in the face of overwhelming odds. It's a film that will leave you breathless, not just because of the physical ordeal it portrays, but because of the emotional depth and psychological complexity it brings to the story. This is a movie that reminds us about the fragility and strength of the human spirit. While 127 Hours is not a horror movie per se, it involves horror elements that I found compelling along with the story. This movie is a psychological drama, survival, documentary that is 1 hour and 34 minutes long that is rated R. The Southern Underworld gives it 5 bloody knives. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. See you next time. Thank you for watching.